Good afternoon, everyone. Please be seated. Routine proceedings. Introduction of bills. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I move, seconded by the Minister of Justice, that Bill number 53, the Budget Implementation and Tax Statutes Amendment Act 2026, Loi d'exécution du budget de 2026 et modifiant diverses dispositions législatives en matière de fiscalité, be now read a first time.
Been moved by the Honourable Minister of Finance, seconded by the Honourable Minister of Justice, that Bill number 53, the Budget Implementation and Tax Statutes Amendment Act 2026, be now read a first time. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This bill introduces tax amendments and changes to implement the key measures from Budget 2026. Measures focused on good jobs, lower costs, and better health care. Bill 53 removes the PST from all food sold at grocery stores, delivering real relief where families are feeling it most. It increases the homeowner affordability tax credit to $1,700 and the renter's affordability tax credit to $675, making life more affordable for Manitobans, whether they rent or whether they own. These measures deliver real, tangible relief to Manitoba families, lowering costs and keeping more money in people's pockets while we continue to rebuild healthcare and grow our economy. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Is it the pleasure of the House to adopt the motion? Agreed, and so ordered. The motion is accordingly passed. Committee reports. Tabling of reports. The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Nope.
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Pleased to table the 2023 annual report for the Manitoba Human Rights Commission and Manitoba Human Rights Adjudication Panel.
The Honourable Minister of Families.
I'm tabling two revised estimate sequences, one for May 7th, 2026, and another for May 8th, 2026.
Ministerial statements. The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to recognize Mental Health Week, May 4th to 10th, 2026. This year's theme is Come Together, Canada Stronger Connections. This year marks the 75th year that the Canadian Mental Health Association celebrates Mental Health Week, that was introduced across Canada in 1951 to raise awareness of mental illness. This theme speaks to something simple but powerful. We are stronger when we show up for one another. Mental health is not something we carry alone. It lives within our families, in our communities, and in relationships that help us feel seen, heard, and valued. Mental health is about opening doors to honest conversations, breaking down stigma, and reminding people that they don't have to struggle in silence. Honourable Speaker, recognizing this week matters. It shines a light on the realities people are facing. It encourages folks to reach out for help sooner, and it reinforces that mental health is just as important as physical health. It's also about ensuring people know where to access help. Honourable Speaker, we know that there is not one person in Manitoba that has not at one point in their life struggled with their mental health and needed help. This week is also about ensuring people know where to get help when they need it, because support should be there when people look for it. Here in Manitoba, our government is working with communities, social agencies, and people with lived experience to strengthen mental health and addiction support. That is why we have invested in a range of initiatives to expand mental health workforce, crisis response, trauma services, suicide prevention, and youth-focused services models across Manitoba. These initiatives are being implemented with multiple partners, including Manitoba Justice, families, education, early childhood learning, service delivery organizations, Indigenous and community-based organizations, seniors in long-term care, Through a shared mandate between housing, addictions, and homelessness and justice, we're committed to adding 100 mental health workers across our great province. This work is helping to build a more coordinated, compassionate response in bringing together frontline workers, community organizations, and law enforcement to better support people in crisis while growing our mental health workforce. Honourable Speaker, our government provides $4.3 million annually to support the assertive community treatment, flexible assertive community treatment, FACT and ACT teams here in Winnipeg. ACT and FACT teams help individuals obtain and maintain tenancies by liaisoning with housing providers, nonprofit Manitoba Housing, social housing, and private market, supporting life skills, development, and housing to address issues that could lead to eviction if left unaddressed. In 2025, we also invested $500,000 in additional funding to the Women's Health Clinic to create Manitoba's first community-based eating disorder program for children and youth. Early intervention and accessible supports can make a life-changing difference for young people and their families. We also increased the annual funding to Clinics Health to expand trauma counseling services to enhance crisis line capacity. This investment helps reduce wait times, expand access to care, and ensure more people can connect with supports when they need it the most. The funding helps Clinic to support more Manitobans annually through their long-term trauma therapy program. It also improves wait times for counseling services, introduces service navigation, and referral supports for individuals requiring care outside the trauma program, and expands access to brief intervention services for those who do not require long-term therapy. Honourable Speaker, we're also investing in better supports for children and youth through integrated youth service sites known as huddles. These spaces provide evidence-based mental health and addiction supports, primary health care, peer support, and other social services tailored to youth ages 12 to 29. And our government is currently supporting 6 huddle sites here in Winnipeg, Selkirk, and in Brandon, and we're expanding into Portage la Prairie and into the north. Honourable Speaker, I want to recognize 2 guests who are up in the gallery. Alana Delmer, Youth Service Clinical Manager to Huddle Broadway, who emceed our event today in the Rotunda, and Hayden Schneider, who spoke at our Mental Health Week, who has access services. I want to thank you for sharing your story. And in 2014, we've also invested over $2 million in the virtual crisis and consultation services for children and youth. This is a hub and spoke model for crisis services that creates consistency in crisis response consultation and treatment across the province and helps connect young people and their families to care more quickly, no matter where they live. Honourable Speaker, we continue to see far too many lives lost to suicide and ongoing mental health crisis in communities across our province. That's why we've invested almost $2 million to implement a province-wide suicide prevention strategy with a focus on Indigenous and 2S LGBTQIA plus youth. This work has been guided by an advisory group of Indigenous youth rights holders and organizations and health system partners, and we look forward to releasing the completed strategy very soon. And we're also taking important steps towards, because we know that there's more work to be done. We're going to continue to do that work because we know that mental health affects all of society, and addressing it requires all of us working together. I recently participated in the federal, provincial, territorial meeting where we discussed the development of a national men and boys strategy, health strategy, that looks at addressing the unique mental health challenges men and boys face. These conversations are important because too many boys and men continue to suffer in silence due to stigma and harmful ideas around vulnerability and asking for help. That stigma is real. We've even seen it here in this chamber, where the member for Dawson Trail spoke openly about his own mental health struggles. That kind of honesty matters. It helps others feel less alone and reminds us all of the importance of compassion and understanding. So I want to thank the member for Dawson Trails for showing us his vulnerability and normalizing that we all need help and support, and that it's okay to talk about our struggles and to seek help. So in addition to recognizing Mental Health Week, I also want to recognize two important days this week, or this year. Drug-related Death Bereavement Day, observed on the first Sunday in May, which honor those who may have lost their lives to substance overdoses and acknowledges the grief carried by families and their loved ones. And today, May 7th, which is National Child and Youth Mental Health Day. This is meant to remind us that listening, checking in, showing care can make a lasting difference in young people's life. When we come together, we build stronger, healthier communities where more people feel connected and supported. So today, I want to remind all Manitobans that you are not alone, that it's okay to talk about your mental health needs, that you don't have to suffer in silence, that we all struggle in some point in our lives, and that we need to show up for one another, and to take care of yourself, because you matter. Miigwech.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
The honourable member for Portage La Prairie.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to recognize May 4th to 10th, 2026 as Mental Health Week. Led by Canadian Mental Health Association, this year's theme, Come Together Canada, reminds us of the importance of human connection and the role all play in supporting mental health in our homes, our workplace, and in our communities. Mental Health Week is an opportunity to raise awareness, encourages conversation, and remind Manitobans that mental health is just as important as physical health. While many people stay connected through text, video calls, and social media, we also know that online communication alone does not always replace meaningful, in-person connection. According to Stats Canada, nearly 1 in 4 Canadians who rely only on virtual communication report feeling lonely, often or always. This year's campaign encourages all of us to spark small, everyday actions of connection, inviting friends for coffee, taking a walk with a loved one, checking in on a neighbor, or attending a community event. These moments may seem simple, but they can have a powerful impact on mental health well-being and help foster a stronger sense of belonging. Together, we can strengthen mental health, build healthier communities, and help more people feel connected. Our PC government understands that many Manitobans continue to face challenges, including the lasting pressures brought on by COVID-19 pandemic. That is why our government created the Ministerial of Mental Health, Wellness and Recovery to help ensure Manitobans have access to care, supports and treatment they need or their journey towards wellness, recovery, and healing. And in Budget 2021, our government also made an additional initial investment of $342 million in wellness and recovery programs to strengthen support for Manitobans all across this great province. Honourable Speaker, we also recognize that more must be done to reduce the stigma that is surrounding mental health and to promote an open dialogue and awareness. This continues creating workplaces and communities where people feel safe, seeking help, and talking openly about their mental well-being. Mental health affects us all, and supporting one another must remain a shared responsibility. As we mark Mental Health Week, I encourage all Manitobans to take time to connect with one another, support those who may be struggling, and continue building a province where everyone feels seen, valued, and supported. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
The honourable member for Dawson Trail.
I ask for leave to speak to the ministerial statement.
Does the honourable member for Dawson Trail have leave? Agreed and so ordered. The honourable member for Dawson Trail.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I'm pleased to respond to the ministerial statement recognizing Mental Health Week. Thank you to the people that are in the gallery who continue to work and advocate on behalf of mental health. Your work is extremely important. Mental health affects every family and every community in Manitoba. In any given year, 1 in 5 Canadians experiences a mental health challenge or illness, and many more struggle in silence without seeking support. Young people are especially impacted. Recent national data shows increasing rates of anxiety, depression, and mental health related to physician visits among youth. This week reminds us that mental health is health. It is also a reminder that support must go beyond awareness alone. Manitobans need timely access to counseling, addictions treatment, crisis services, and mental health support in both urban and rural communities. Mental health conversations must also be included. Psychological safety in workplaces, schools, and public institutions. Respect and compassion matters. I have had mental health challenges and still continue to struggle with them. And I want to acknowledge everyone who faces a mental health challenge, personally or through someone they love. Sometimes the greatest accomplishment is just getting up and showering in the morning. Recovery is not always easy, but no Manitoban should feel they are alone. This week lets us recommit not only awareness, but to action and meaningful support to mental health across the province and Canada. There is support available out there. If you're wondering who to call, you can reach out to the 988 Suicide Crisis Helpline, Clinic Crisis Line at 204-786-8686, or toll free at 1-888-322-3019. And for the kids out there that are suffering, you can reach out to 1-800-668-6868 or text CONNECT to 686868. I'd also like to thank the many organizations out there, from the Rob Nash program to the Samantha Mason Foundation, for the great work they do as well. Remember, it's okay not to be okay. What's not okay is to go through it alone. Thank you.
Prior to members, the Honourable First Minister, on a point of order.
Yeah, I just wanted to say to our colleague from Dawson Trail, on behalf of all of us, we've got your back. It really tears us up to see you affected, but maybe in sharing your story, you're getting that empathy and that compassion. So we support you and we want to see you thriving. So all the best, my friend, and maybe we'll see you at Bass Pro Shop soon.
I thank the Honourable First Minister. Not a point of order, but well-spoken words. Before we move on to member statements, there's some guests in the gallery. We have seated in the public gallery from Woodlawn School, 47 grade 7 students under the direction of Simi Gandhi, and this group is located in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Steinbach. We welcome you all here today. Member statements. The Honourable Member for Burroughs.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to recognize the outstanding Sisler High School quiz team, a group that exemplifies academic excellence, dedication, and community spirit. For 4 years, its grade 12 members have competed together, building a legacy that has reached remarkable heights in Manitoba. Their journey began with consecutive provincial titles at the intermediate level, reflecting early strength in teamwork and scholarship. Like many students, they faced setbacks during the pandemic, but showed resilience in rebuilding. Under coach Heather Johnson, who has led the team since 2019, alongside Sage Pereira, these students committed to rigorous twice-weekly practices from October to May. Their hard work has delivered exceptional results. After finishing second at provincials for the Reach for the Top academic quiz competition last year, the team captured the senior provincial title this spring, Sisler's first senior championship since 1972. Wow. Nationally, they have twice qualified for the championships. In Calgary last year, they placed an impressive 11th in their debut against top teams from across Canada. This year, they returned with determination and confidence. I commend Sipara Berhe, Ethan Blackburn, Adeline Collins, Rain Dexter, Harry Ward Lozada, Cole Lefort, and Tyrone Sisson. Their achievement inspire young Manitobans to pursue excellence with passion and perseverance. I invite my colleagues to join me in celebrating their success and wishing them continued excellence at the Reach for the Top National Championship.
The Honourable Member for La Vérendrye.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to recognize the Labroquerie Habs, winners of the 2025-26 CRJHL Junior B Hockey Championship. Just 2 years ago, the Habs came into existence, bringing junior hockey back to Labroquerie. Since then, this homegrown effort has taken the community by storm. From school kids to seniors, the whole community rallied behind this team throughout the entire season, and especially during an unforgettable playoff run. President and owner Ken Talaire said that every time the team stepped onto the ice, they did so knowing they carried the support of the entire community behind them. That is what makes this championship so meaningful. Throughout the year, the coaches, volunteers, billets, and fans knew there was something special about this group, a team built on character, heart, determination. And they proved it, becoming league champions in only their second season. What makes this playoff run even more impressive is that along the way they defeated another proud La Vérendrye team, the St. Malo Warriors, who entered the playoffs as back-to-back defending champions. And Honourable Speaker, that says something important about our region. Whether it's the Labroquerie or St. Malo teams, southeastern Manitoba continues to produce strong communities, strong leaders, and strong teams. I would also like to recognize the coaches and staff. Dan Telefer, Regine Carrier, Jean Moquen, Manon Lafreniere, General Manager Steve Hildebrand, and President Ken Talaire and his wife Tracy. Most importantly, congratulations to the players, including Connor Talaire, Carson Talaire, Yannick Gagnon, Grayson Plett, Mario Gagnon, and Charlot Lafreniere, who are here with us in the gallery today. Please join me in congratulating the Labroquerie Habs on a dream season and a championship that the entire community can be proud of.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I rise today to recognize the important work of Canadian Friends of the Hockey of Ukraine. Founded in Winnipeg in 2018, a group of hockey enthusiasts, including many retired NHL players, joined players of the Ukrainian heritage came together with their shared commitment to support the development of youth hockey in Ukraine. Their efforts reflected the deep connections between Manitoba and Ukraine, and one that continues to grow even in the face of war. Through hockey, young people in Ukraine are finding opportunity to hope during these difficult times. Over the past 8 years, the CFHU group has set aside more than 350 sets of hockey equipment to be shipped to 17 minor hockey clubs across in Ukraine. The organization has also delivered training camps supporting Ukrainian youth pursuing hockey in Canada and advancing opportunities through par hockey. Most recently, Canadian-made par hockey sleds were delivered to Kiev, supporting CFHU-sponsored team. In Ukraine, one of the most popular Canadian teams in Ukraine is the Dauphin Kings of Manitoba Junior Hockey League. The first Ukrainian night that went virtual was featured in major Ukrainian networks. Manitoba has become the welcome many players in the last few years. And just to show the support from the city of Dauphin and the Dauphin Kings, there's no surprise that born junior age player Dmitry Korbitsins and Harvil Simchuk came to Dauphin from Ukraine to play with the Dauphin Kings. And I would also like to recognize the distinguished guests in the gallery today who have contributed to this valuable cause and support. I would ask Ross Romaniuk, Winnipeg Jets player, many Manitoba Hall of Fame member, would please stand. Also Cole Babbage, son of 50 career father who scored with the St. Louis Blues, became an NHL player, Wayne Babbage. Ken Plusva from Dauphin, who's quite involved with the organization in Dauphin, and Vern Zanwodnicki, chair of the CFHU. Please rise and thank you. I want to thank you on behalf of everyone here. Thank you for your leadership and commitment. Even during war, hockey continues to bring people together, inspiring hope and highlighting the strong ties between Manitoba and Ukraine. So I ask everyone in the gallery to please stand and rise.
Stand.
The honourable member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, I rise today to speak on behalf of the residents of Lakeside regarding prolonged detour caused by the PR 227 bridge construction. We all understand the importance of investing in infrastructure. Safe and reliable roads and bridges are essential for rural communities, for trade, for agriculture, and for the families who rely on these routes every single day. During construction, municipal roads have carried the burden of redirected traffic, particularly heavy truck traffic. That has meant excessive dust for nearby residents, growing safety concerns due to speeding vehicles, and accelerated wear and tear on local infrastructure that was never intended to handle this volume and type of traffic for such an extended period of time. As rural municipalities always do, the RM of Woodlands has stepped up to support its residents and keep people moving safely. The RM has invested significant funds into gravel, grading, and ongoing maintenance simply to keep these roads passable and safe. They have done their part responsibly and professionally, but they should not be expected to shoulder these costs alone and without meaningful provincial support. Travelers, producers, local businesses, and families see what appears to be a completed project, yet they continue to face detours, delays, and deteriorating municipal roads. If there is a legitimate technical or engineering reason for the delay in reopening PR 227, then the government should clearly communicate that to the RM and to the public. Municipalities across Manitoba are already being asked to do more with less. Every successive NDP budget has borne that reality out. Rural municipalities are stretching every tax dollar further while facing increasing infrastructure demands, rising maintenance costs, and growing pressure on local services. Downloading the financial burden of provincial detours onto local governments is simply not sustainable. The RM of Woodlands has supported the province throughout this project. Now the province must support the RM in supporting its residents. I urge the government to act swiftly to reopen the route as soon as possible. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This Saturday, I'm proud to invite the residents of St. James to come together and take pride in the community we call home. On May 9th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m., we're hosting the Burkevale Community Cleanup and Barbecue at Bruce Park. Together, we'll be cleaning up the Burkevale neighbourhood, Bruce Park, Truro Creek, Douglas Park Road, and Deer Lodge Place, some of the beloved green spaces, pathways, and streets that make St. James one of the finest communities in this province. Events like this one remind us of what community is all about. It's not complicated. It's neighbors showing up for neighbors. It's people who care about where they live deciding to do something about it, together. It's the quiet, unglamorous work of looking after the places we share so that they remain places worth sharing. The parks and green spaces of St. James are more than just patches of grass and trees. They're where our children take their first steps on a soccer field. They're where families gather on summer evenings, and they're where friendships are built and where community is felt. When we take care of those spaces, we're saying something about who we are and what we value. And when the hard work is done, we'll fire up the grill for a free barbecue, because in St. James, we believe that good work deserves a good meal, and that there's no better way to end a morning of community service than with your neighbors, sharing food and conversation in the sunshine. I want to sincerely thank everyone who's already committed to joining us, and I want to extend an open invitation to any resident of St. James who wants to get involved. No experience required, just a willingness to show up. Honourable Speaker, this Saturday, St. James is going to show up, clean up, and come together. I hope to see as many of our neighbours there as possible. Thanks, Honourable Speaker.
Oral questions. The Honourable Member for Midland.
For the second year in a row, Winnipeg families are opening their tax bills today and are shocked to see skyrocketing education taxes under the NDP. One bill, two very different decisions. The City of Winnipeg is so embarrassed by the NDP's double-digit tax increases, they are inserting explanations into every single tax bill just to separate themselves from the damage caused by the NDP government. School tax increases as high as 43% in Louis Riel, 38% in Seven Oaks, and 37% in Pembina Trails in just the 2.5 years since this NDP came into office. The NDP have had a year to fix the problem. Why have they again failed to keep school taxes under control for Winnipeg families?
The Honourable First Minister.
Folks in Manitoba ought to know that everyone in this province has received their highest property tax rebate under our government.
That's right.
That's something that we're very proud of. If you got a huge property that's very, very expensive and you're really rich, like Brian Pallister or Heather Stephenson, congratulations, you got your biggest property tax rebate from us in 2024. And for everyone else in Manitoba, your highest property tax rebate is happening this year. $1,700 thanks to our Minister of Finance. When I look across the way, I see a sneak preview of what it's going to be like here in late June. The choice is easy. More affordable groceries with us, more expensive groceries with them.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Midland.
The property tax bills tell a very different story, and Manitoba families are opening them up today and discovering tax shock, because 54% of Winnipeg property tax bills are going straight to this NDP government's tax grab. The NDP removed all the guardrails protecting homeowners and Manitoba families from uncontrolled tax hikes, and now families are directly paying the price. In fact, the NDP has hiked taxes 2.5 times faster than the City of Winnipeg, and an inadequate tax credit that doesn't even cover the increase in taxes that Manitoba and Winnipeg families are seeing today. The NDP have had 2 years to fix the problem that they created. When will they fix
Member's
this
time
mess?
has expired. The Honourable First Minister.
Everyone in Manitoba has received their highest property tax rebate ever under our government. In the member's own constituency, More than 90% of people are better off this year as opposed to last year. That's because our tax rebate is progressive, meaning it provides the most help to those who need the help the very most. Now, here's the interesting thing. We don't set property taxes, we set the rebates. What they're talking about on that side of the House is cutting education. So the minister needs to stand up the member opposite needs to stand up in the House and explain which school do they want to close, which teaching positions do they want to erase, which EAs do they want to fire. On this side, we're investing in education, plus we're saving you money.
The honourable member for Midland on a final supplementary question.
The NDP has become so toxic on taxation that municipalities like the City of Winnipeg are having to distance themselves from the decisions that the NDP government has made. The City of Winnipeg has included an insert in every single tax bill explaining the increases that are the direct result of the NDP government. 43% increase in Louis Riel, 38% increase in Seven Oaks, and 37% increase in Pembina Trails, all under their government. They removed the guardrails. Families are paying the price. When will they finally realize their mistake and fix it for Manitoba families?
Hear, hear.
The Honourable First Minister.
Well, the member opposite should consult the member for Parliament for Transcona Elmwood, Colin Reynolds, who's a Conservative, and he's mailing out all his constituents saying, you know how to save money? Use the Homeowners Affordability Tax Credit. And this is the only time that we agree with Colin Reynolds. Now, when it comes to the members opposite, you know what they mailed out with everybody's property taxes? A signed love letter for Brian Pallister. Didn't work. He still got chased out of town.
That's right.
People were not happy with the cuts to health care. They were not happy with the cuts to education. Instead, they wanted our government to make sure that you save money on your property taxes, make sure you have a strong health care system, and also this year's budget delivering the lowest deficit in all of Canada.
The honourable member for Roblin.
Under this NDP government, families and homeowners in Charleswood and Tuxedo are worse off. And this NDP government isn't, in fact, investing in education. And that's why homeowners in Charleswood are now facing double-digit property tax increases.
That's right.
This year, Pembina Trails will be collecting $15.7 million more from homeowners in order to pay for education that this NDP government refuses to budget for and fund properly. Those tax bills will begin hitting mailboxes this week. Why is this NDP government hiking taxes on homeowners in the middle of an affordability crisis?
The Honourable First Minister.
Open up this year's budget. It's right there on page 144. Tax measures. Taxes are going down by $50 million in Manitoba this year. At the same time, we've got the lowest deficit in all of the land. So when I think about constituents in Tuxedo and in Roblin, I know that the folks in Tuxedo are very happy to have an MLA who's investing in healthcare and saving you money. Meanwhile, next door in Roblin, they're looking longingly towards the next fixed election date. We're going to keep investing in healthcare. We're going to keep saving you money. And guess what? We're not going to cut schools, which is exactly what the member opposite is advocating.
That's right.
The honourable member for Roblin on a supplementary question.
Homeowners in Charleswood and Tuxedo are not better off under the NDP, and I know that because the homeowners in Tuxedo call my office. Since they took office, this NDP government has jacked property taxes in Pembina Trails by over 37%. They hide behind municipalities, they hide behind school trustees, but the NDP's failure to properly fund education is the reason homeowners in Charleswood are seeing double-digit property tax increases again this year. All because the NDP's funding increase to Pembina Trails, 0.9%, amounts to a de facto cut. Why has the NDP increased property taxes in Charleswood by 37%? Wow.
The Honourable First Minister.
Honourable Speaker, the best education minister in all of Canada, sitting to my left, has seen fit make sure that we're investing more money in Manitoba education in our children than ever before. And as a result, there are more teachers. There are more educational assistants working in Manitoba than ever before. When the members opposite get up and they attack school divisions and school trustees, what they're really saying is they want to go back to underfunded positions. They want to go back to cutting teachers and educational assistants. They want to go to less clinical resources in the classroom to help our kids grow and learn. We're not going to allow it. We're going to keep working together with you to make life more affordable, but also to invest in the next generation.
That's right. That's right.
The honourable member for Roblin on a final supplementary question.
This Premier might want to check in with school division superintendents. Pembina Trails Superintendent Shelley Amos told media that it's this government's decisions that are going to result in program cuts in Pembina Trails and property tax increases. Families are feeling the pressure. Income taxes, gas, hydro rates, pharmacare deductibles, everyone's household bills are increasing under the NDP. Will the NDP stop hiding behind the City of Winnipeg, stop hiding behind school divisions, and take responsibility for how they are making the affordability crisis even worse for homeowners in Charleswood and Tuxedo?
The Honourable First Minister. Order.
I cut the gas tax when I came into office. This year I'm cutting grocery taxes, and we're saving you money on your property taxes too. People in Charleswood, people in Tuxedo, $1,700 off your property tax bill. Plus, everyone in this province is better off as a result of more funding for our kids in the K-12 education system. Now, on the other side of the House, they're nominating candidates like Michael Zagstra, who we heard yesterday said Roe v. Wade should be overturned. He's against abortion. But we also see that this candidate is in favor of Alberta's Bill 25, which on the subject of education, it's like a walk down memory lane to the PC Bill 64. He said it's disappointing Bill 25 is receiving pushback. So I'd like the members opposite to stand up and tell us, does this represent their education policy? Do they keep wanting to cut schools in Manitoba?
The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonny.
Taxpayers, Manitoba School Boards, Association of Manitoba Municipalities are all feeling the pressures by the cuts by this Canoe government to our education system. This Canoe government is downloading onto Manitoba taxpayers. When will this minister let Manitobans know when is she going to announce the new funding model?
Yeah, exactly.
The Honourable First Minister.
Not a good look, guys.
The Honourable First Minister.
Yeah, the member opposite is on thin ice when he gets up in this chamber these days. That's right. And that's why I think it's probably beneath the education minister to respond to the sort of hate-spewing rhetoric that we see coming from the member opposite. Right. Yeah. I do want to get to the bottom of this Bill 25 position, so I'm going to table this for the member opposite, as well as for all the members asking questions today. Again, written by Zwagstra, schools are sacrificing our kids' education for political activism, in which he outlines his support for Alberta's Bill 25. So, is this what we're campaigning on? A return to Bill 64 and school cuts versus investments in our kids, more schools in Manitoba, and higher education? Because if that's the next election, bring it on!
The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonny on a supplementary question.
Once again, Honourable Speaker, more of a showman than a statesman. Honourable Speaker won't even allow his education minister to stand up and answer a question. Well, what does Louis Riel School Division have to say, Honourable Speaker? They say that they're fixed, their financial positions have eroded. What does the Manitoba Teachers Society say? Manitoba Teachers Society says education funding announcement fails students yet again. Will the Minister of Education reverse course, lower property taxes, and introduce a new fair funding model? Yes or no?
The Honourable First Minister. The Honourable First Minister.
Thank you. It's interesting to hear the member opposite stand up and ask our wonderful nation-leading education minister to do something he was unable to do when he was face planting day after day in the hold down the fort era of Brian Pallister's government here in Manitoba. And it was not too long after he was sent to the opposition benches that I think this member compared me to Adam Beach. Now, why would his thought process go there? I mean, I've never portrayed Ira Hayes in a movie. I've never been a character in a DC comic book series. I've never appeared in any science fiction. Maybe the member opposite wants to talk today on the record about what about me reminds him of Adam Beach.
Order, please. Order, please. Stop the clock. Order, please. During the Honourable Member for Lac Du Bonny's last question, he was quoting from something. Was it a public or private document? The Honourable Member for Lac Du Bonny.
Public.
Thank you. The Honourable Member for Lac Du Bonny.
Well, maybe, Honourable Speaker, the Canoe government is so confident that the Premier can go out and hand-deliver those bigger tax bills to his colleagues who own cabins, well, some of who own cabins, some own property, out in my constituency, Honourable Speaker. I'm sure they're going to be thrilled. Would this minister stand up? Will the Premier allow his minister stand up, commit today to reverse course, listen to educators, families, and taxpayers, and finally introduce a sustainable funding model for education in this province? Yes or no, Honourable Speaker?
The Honourable First Minister.
So, I don't know if we're supposed to tell protective services to look out for the member opposite outside of people's cabins and cottages. It was a little bizarre, not sure what the point of all that was, but I do want to correct the record. Apparently, what he actually said was that I was, and I quote, no Adam Beach, end quote. So again, you know, these are verbatim things on the record, which, you know, very mindful of how we talk about other people in the chamber. But I would say this, I am no Adam Beach. Instead, I am a humble servant of you, the people of Manitoba, working hard to invest in your schools, working hard on behalf of our children, and working hard to set a precedent of respect and inclusion for all. Let's see the Tories match that.
The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, this government loves to make other people do their dirty work. They've been hiding behind municipalities for a lot of their tax increases, making municipal staff and leaders not only take the brunt of Manitobans' frustrations, but also cover the administrative burden. Why is the minister downloading the cost of his property tax increases on municipalities, and why has he refused to cover the added costs?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Honourable Speaker, this is the ABCs of me. I show up for municipalities, I engage with municipalities, and I work with municipalities to make our province better. Full stop. Right. Ask any of those Reeves, any of those mayors, if I show up, and the answer will be a resounding yes. Our door is not closed. We don't work in silos in the shadows. Need I remind you, Honourable Speaker, that when there was a caretaker convention, they showed Manitobans how they're going to act. In the shadows. Cliff Cullen, Heather Stephenson, did we get it done? Secrets, secrets, secrets. We show up, the ABCs of us, we're here for you.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Lakeside on a supplementary question.
Honourable Speaker, the Arm of Woodlands still awaits the minister's arrival. When the NDP lowered the education property tax rebate, they passed the burden on to municipalities. Instead of supporting municipal partners side by side, the minister hides in the back and denies any responsibility for his destructive tax regime. If you own your home, the government demands more of you. If you put in a hard day's work, the government demands more of you. If you're just trying to support your family, this government demands more of you. Why does this minister demand more from everyone except himself?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
Wow, we're in desperation stage over there.
Order.
I mean, maybe the leader is supposed to be here to keep them in line, but I'll continue to tell them this. You can go to any person in the municipal world and ask them whether or not I show up and whether or not I work for them, and they will tell you that nobody in the last 10 years has shown up like this government for municipalities. The member opposite is completely off base. Completely off base on who shows up for municipalities. You go into Stonewall and ask them who shows up for Stonewall. It's not the member opposite, it's this government.
The member's time has expired. The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Honourable Speaker, municipalities are doing the work, fixing the minister's failed rebate program to ensure that families get what they are owed. When people fell through the cracks during this program's implementation, the NDP were apathetic. If someone wasn't enrolled properly, it wasn't a concern to this minister. They could just get a rebate at tax time. Because the NDP cabinet is so far removed from everyday Manitobans, how does this minister not realize that families cannot afford to front his government thousands of dollars and hope to get it back at tax time?
The Honourable Minister of Municipal and Northern Relations.
You know, I work with a bunch of colleagues who care about Manitoba. On this government side, we've made women safer. We're building schools. We're protecting people. We have the best health minister in the country who's hired thousands of healthcare staff. We have the lowest deficit in the country. We have the king of crown lands. We're building supportive housing instead of selling them off. And now we have the members opposite with the gall to show up in this House and say that we don't care about Manitobans. That is completely off base. We will put our offer in front of Manitobans and we'll see.
Member's time has expired. Order, please. Order, please. Order. I would ask all members to take it down a couple of notches so that I can hear what's being said. The Honourable Member for Interlake Gimli.
This NDP government fails to make life more affordable for Manitobans, and yet it continues to refuse to support the PC proposal to raise the basic personal exemption to $30,000 change, which would leave roughly $3,000 a year more in Manitoba pockets. Why is this government more interested in giving people a couple of dollars back at checkout line instead of simply letting them keep more of their own money in the first place? The NDP are waving a toonie around in the front and taking 20s out of your pocket in the back.
Here, here. Good.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, the members opposite do not sound serious in this chamber. We don't know if they're coming or going or what offer they're putting on the table, but here's what we do know. We know under them, we saw cuts across the board. Cuts to education, cuts to health care, cuts to child care, cuts to municipalities. That's the reality that Manitobans endured for 7.5 years. We're doing the work of ensuring we fund healthcare properly, we make sure our kids have what they need in our divisions, and while we do all that important work, we're also ensuring we make life more affordable. We've lowered taxes for everyone in Manitoba. We lowered your school tax bill. We're putting more money in the pockets of renters. We're putting more money in the pockets of everyone who drives a car. This team is going to keep doing the work every single day of making life more affordable, including by taking the PST off all groceries in our grocery
time
stores.
has expired. If I could get the clock stopped for a minute. Order. Stop the clock. There's some guests in the gallery that have to leave right away, so I'd like to introduce in the public gallery from Steinbach Christian School 20 grade 9 students under the direction of Curtis Plett, and this group is located in the constituency of the Honourable Member for Steinbach. We welcome you here today. The Honourable Member for Interlake Gimli on a supplementary question.
Families in Interlake Gimli are not asking for symbolic changes on snack foods. They're asking for real relief from rising costs, higher taxes, and shrinking paychecks. Why won't this NDP government support the PC plan to raise the basic personal exemption to $30,000 and leave thousands of dollars in Manitobans' pockets instead of nickel and diming you to death?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, the answer to that question is because it's not serious. What it results in is $1 billion hole, more cuts to education and health care. That's the reality that we experienced for 7.5 years under the members opposite. The proposal isn't serious. That's why we were left with a $2 billion hole to climb out of. Now what are we doing? We're not only making life more affordable, but now we have the lowest deficit in the entire country. This team knows how to walk and chew gum at the same time. We're making life more affordable while we're ensuring we work towards balance. This team is getting it done.
That's right.
The Honourable Member for Interlake Gimli on a final supplementary question.
Well, in all seriousness, the average household income in Interlake Gimli earns a little bit over $60,000 a year and is struggling with higher grocery bills, fuel costs, mortgages, and utilities. This government is handing you pennies up front while taking 20s out of your back pocket. Why would this minister insist upon denying Manitobans truly impactful inflation relief?
Good job, Derek.
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Manitobans are struggling with higher grocery bills, and we've got a plan for you. Why won't the member get on board? We're proposing to take the PSD off all food and grocery stores. Not only that, we froze the price of a 1-litre jug of milk. We're going after predatory pricing on food. We're going to make sure there's more competition in grocery stores and community to help bring prices down. This team is doing the work of going after lower grocery prices. We're going to keep doing that work because we're focused on the needs of Manitobans. For years, Manitobans had a government that wasn't listening to them. Finally, they've got a government that cares. We're showing that each and every day. And I asked the member opposite if he cares about the struggles people in his community are facing when it comes to grocery prices. Will he support our move to take the PSD off all groceries? Yes or no?
The Honourable Member for Agassiz.
It's amazing the length this government will go to avoid giving Manitobans real tax relief. Since taking office, the NDP have budgeted to collect over $800 million more in income taxes from Manitoba families. That's over 15% increase in tax revenue, all while the economy grew by less than 5% in that same time period. There's no economic growth, so why is the minister taking more than ever before from hardworking Manitoba families?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
No, Honourable Speaker, the member that just stood up, in her community, 9 out of 10 people are better off under our plan than under their plan. That's a big plurality. And of course, not only are we reducing education property taxes, we're going to take the PSD off all groceries, but we're also bringing in free childcare for the lowest income families in the province. Free transit for youth. This is targeted relief that counts. We're doing the work to ensure that families that need help are getting it. Again, for years, what happened? We had a government that was not focused on helping Manitobans where they were experiencing those pressures. Now, this government is providing relief across the board. We're going to keep doing that. We're proud to be doing that. But again, we ask the members opposite.
The Honourable Member for Agassiz on a supplementary question.
That's simply not what I'm hearing in my communities. But it is the NDP way to tax, 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 and more tax. It's all they seem to know how to do, and it's honestly pathetic that this Premier would stand in his place and say he will pull out every stop He will do whatever he can to deny families real tax relief here in our province. Families need support today, so why is this minister content with offering pennies when families deserve real relief?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, this team is cutting taxes for Manitobans. We cut the gas tax, one of the first things we did for an entire year, gas tax holiday, and now that tax has been permanently cut by 10%. We froze your hydro rates. We cut your education and property taxes. We lowered taxes for renters, a tax that was increased by the members opposite during their tenure. They made life more expensive for folks in Manitoba who often need the most help. That's their record. Manitobans know what their record is because they experienced it. They saw their prices, their costs go up and up and up. I asked that member, if they are serious about wanting to support people in their community, will they stand up today and say that they will support taking the PSD off all groceries in Manitoba?
The Honourable Member for Agassiz on a final supplementary question.
This is what they do. The NDP, they tax, they tax, they tax. They're convinced that families would waste their paychecks on frivolous things like activities for their children, visits to local restaurants, or a family night out, supporting local arts. Money spent in the local economy has a multiplied impact and grows the economy, which this government clearly doesn't understand. Why are they opposed to giving families hundreds and thousands of dollars in tax relief so that they can grow their local community economies?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Honourable Speaker, there's only one team in this province that wants to raise taxes on Manitobans. It's the members opposite. That's right. We know if they had their way, they would lift gas taxes back up. We know they would increase taxes on renters again. We know they'd increase education property taxes on Manitobans. And while they do all that, we know they'd once again take a chainsaw to everything that matters to Manitobans, whether it's education, healthcare, whatever. We know what they did for 7.5 years. It doesn't matter how many times they say it, it doesn't make it true. This team is reducing taxes for Manitobans, and we're proud of that, and we're going to keep doing that work each and every day.
The Honourable Member for Thompson.
Honourable Speaker, after 7.5 years of rising costs, Manitoba families are finally seeing relief because of our government. For example, we cut the gas tax, we froze hydro rates, and now we're taking steps to curb rising food costs with the freeze to the price of milk and legislation to increase competition in the grocery sector. Would Canada's best finance minister in Canadian history please tell the House what our government is doing to help Manitobans at the grocery store?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I want to thank my amazing colleague from Thompson. Honourable Speaker, it's very simple. No PSD on grocery means more money back in the pockets of Manitobans. We are removing the PSD on essential food items like rotisserie chickens, prepared salads, fruit and vegetable trays, granola, and the list goes on. Members opposite allowed grocery prices to rise over 32%, while our team is saving Manitobans money in the grocery aisle on July 1st. On this side of the House, we're focused on making sure families can afford to fill their carts. The PCs would rather block real savings and have Manitobans pay more at the grocery store. Our team will continue to stand up for Manitoba families and deliver real action on affordability.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Rural ambulance service is at a crisis point. Altona Police Chief Dan DeFer says that while responding to an accident scene recently where 2 people needed to get to hospital, we requested 2 ambulances, and then we were advised that only 1 ambulance would be responding, and the ETA was 1 hour. He went on to say that this cannot continue. Someone is going to die. According to Shared Health, there's been a net loss of 34 rural paramedics in Manitoba since this NDP government took office in 2023, with about 25% of positions now vacant. Why has this government allowed the situation to deteriorate into a full-blown crisis, and where's the plan to fix it?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, the member for Borderland should be ashamed of himself. He sat in the PC caucus while members of his caucus who sat around the cabinet table were cutting services to rural Manitoba. He was in that caucus when they were cutting services that saw us lose 90 paramedics from rural Manitoba. He sat in that caucus when they wouldn't allow advanced care paramedics to practice in rural communities. We have a net new 41 paramedics here in Manitoba. And you know what, Honourable Speaker? We know it's not enough. We know there's more work to do, so we're going to keep doing that work to fix the damage that he did on that side of the House when they were in government.
Right on.
The honourable member for Borderland on a supplementary question.
That coming from a minister who claimed last fall that they'd hired 241 net new paramedics, and then they had to revise that and apologize weeks later and say they'd only hired 18, and it turns out that number is also wrong. The shortage of paramedics in rural Manitoba is bad and getting worse, according to the MAHCP. Vacancies of advanced, intermediate, and primary care paramedic positions hit 25% last December, up 15% since this NDP government took office. Jason Linklater says paramedics are burned out and frustrated, and that the paramedic staffing crisis, his words, is a profound failure by this government to keep one of their signature healthcare promises. People across rural Manitoba and communities like Altona, Schonzenfeld, Dominion City or Emerson deserve to know that the ambulance will be there.
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, on this side of the House, we believe that rural Manitobans deserve the highest quality health care. And that is why we have worked across government to make sure that for the first time ever in Manitoba's history, we have advanced care paramedics working in rural communities across Manitoba. For the first time ever. For the first time in years, all of our paramedic training seats are full. Wow. For the first time in years, we have EMRs training and being hired in rural communities. This work has been done in conjunction, hand in hand, with municipalities, with AMM, with rural providers who've been asking for this help for years. Their calls for help went unanswered for years under the PCs. He should stand up and apologize.
The honourable member for Borderland on a final supplementary question.
Altona Police Chief Dan DeFer asked the question, are we transporting people in the back of our pickup truck? And says this is the kind of thing responders worry about when paramedics don't arrive quickly. In no way are we criticizing our local paramedics. They work hard, they are dedicated, there's just not enough of them. This comes as Wayne Shakoon, a rural paramedic and director with the MAHCP, says the province is not posting positions in the East Zone or in the South Zone unless absolutely necessary. This NDP government told Manitobans they would hire 200 paramedics in their first year in office. And the situation, just like healthcare wait times, has gotten worse. If this was happening in Winnipeg, the minister would be ringing alarm bells. So why should my constituents have to accept this?
The Honourable Minister of Health, Seniors and Long-Term Care.
Honourable Speaker, what the member for Borderland's constituents no longer have to accept is a failed PC government that cuts their services, cuts their resources, and turns their backs on rural Manitobans. We have a net new 41 paramedics compared to a net loss of 90 under them. We have EMRs practicing in rural Manitoba that weren't even allowed to have the opportunity under them. Shame. We have folks across rural Manitoba who have opportunities to work in healthcare that they didn't have under them. We're fixing their damage. We're fixing the culture in healthcare in rural Manitoba, and we will take no lessons from a member of that caucus who supported his colleagues in cutting rural healthcare for 7.5 years.
That's right. That's right.
The honourable member for Portage-La Prairie.
Yesterday, the Families Minister said home care at 145 Powers was restored as of 1:30 p.m. Hours later, her own office told media services were still being re-established. Which is it? Are seniors getting care in their homes at 145 Powers? Yes or no?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
Thank you much, Honourable Speaker. And I want to take this opportunity just to lift up all those members at 145 Powers who are doing amazing work at supporting all of those individuals that are tenants at 145 Powers, whether it's Nadinaway Winnipeg Regional Rehabilitation, home care services. You know, they're doing amazing work in terms of supporting and meeting people where they're at. Unlike members opposite who like to point fingers, we're working collaboratively in supporting and meeting people where they're at, and we're going to continue to do that work.
The honourable member for Portage La Prairie on a supplementary question.
So unless I'm missing something here, the people at 145 Powers are or aren't getting any service back at home. The minister claims she stopped moving high-risk individuals into senior housing. Then why are services at 145 Powers and many facilities across Manitoba being cancelled again because of ongoing criminal activity? If the practice is stopped, why is this chaos getting worse?
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. What I will say is we take zero tolerance when it comes to any criminal activity in our buildings. Safety and security is our #1 priority. Unlike members opposite who changed the practice around seniors housing, we reversed that and we are making sure that seniors housing is true seniors housing. We've instituted and brought back staffing, unlike members opposite who fired staffing. They didn't, care about the safety and security of members who were residents who were living in these buildings. We take that very seriously on this side of the House. We're going to continue to ensure that our residents are safe in our housing and work alongside and ensure that members that are living in these residences get the support.
Time has expired. The honourable member for Portage La Prairie on a final supplementary question.
Across Manitoba, people are waiting for answers. We're waiting for answers at 145 Powers. Seniors are locking themselves inside their apartments, afraid to pick up medication because of crime in their buildings. The minister says everything is fixed. Seniors know better. When will this government stop defending its talking points and start to protect our seniors that deserve it so much? Thank you.
The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness. The Honourable Minister of Housing, Addiction and Homelessness.
Miigwech, Honourable Speaker. We'll take no lessons from members opposite who left residents in disarray with no supports, no services, no security, no housing, left them in tents with no supports. On this side of the House, we're getting people supports. 223 people have been supported out of tents with supports. Seniors are getting the supports that they need with supportive housing. We got over 2,183 boards off of housing that they left on Manitoba Housing. Shame on those folks. We're going to continue to support Manitobans. Get safe and supportive housing online, unlike members opposite who didn't give a care about any Manitoban in this
The time for oral questions has expired. Petitions. No petitions. Grievances. Orders of the day. The Honourable Government House Leader. Government business. The Honourable Government House Leader.
Can you please call Committee of Supply?
It has been announced that we will now resolve into Committee of Supply to consider estimates. And just as a reminder, there's also Committee of Supply Friday.
Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now resume consideration of the estimates for the Department of Public Service Delivery. At this time, we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber. Could the minister introduce his staff in attendance? The Honourable Minister for Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. We have with me today Deputy Minister Brenda Desrano, Director of Ministerial Affairs Julia Anthonyson, Assistant Deputy Minister and Executive Financial Officer Jason Perez, Assistant Deputy Minister of Asset Management Division Brent Timmerman, Assistant Deputy Minister of Procurement and Supply Chain Division Paris Pergulis, Assistant Deputy Minister of Consumer Protection Division Catherine Durkin-Chudd, Acting Assistant Deputy Minister of Capital Project Planning and Delivery Division Cheryl Lassick.
Thank you. And could the critic please introduce their staff?
I am here with
the Honourable Member for Waterland.
Sure. Thank you, Chair. I'm here with Shannon today.
As previously stated, in accordance with Sub-Rule 78, Bracket 16, during the consideration of departmental estimates, questioning for each department shall proceed in a global manner. The floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thank you, Chair. So when it comes to the 85-cent charge that is levied by Manitoba Building Trades on projects that have the Manitoba Jobs Agreement applied to them, that 85-cent per hour per worker charge, the other day we talked about where the money was going, couldn't get an answer, but I'm wondering if the minister could tell us today how many millions, or whatever the number is, does he anticipate the government will collect through that fee alone annually?
The Honourable Minister for Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Just let the member know the BC remittance follow the same process as similar labor strategy and It includes to support the administrative and labor relation function required under the MGA. This is mentioned throughout the first MGA in the market and also included in all tendering documents. And also, maybe I'll still let the member know what MGA is. I think members still confused. We are listening to Manitobans and we are listening to Manitoba workers. This is every single person, every single worker who works on MGA is better off. They will have a safer work site, better benefit, and fair wages. This is all about it. And this is also about putting Manitoba workers to work here in Manitoba. Under, like previously, under conservative, we have auto province license plate on the work site. Our focus is on Manitoba workers, the Manitoba workers who build Manitoba, the same workers who put hard hat and steel toe boots on the job site. Is plus they're working out, be it plus 40 or minus 40, and they're working hard, and we want to make sure they will have safer work site, better benefit, and fair wages. And we want to make sure they go to their family safely. So we are working the workforce, we're training the workforce for the future. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Thank you, Chair. You know, it's again, no response from the minister. For decades, Manitoba's construction industry has built our roads, hospitals, schools, and bridges. They've never had to pay a fee like this new slush fund fee that the minister and his NDP colleagues are bringing in now, that they're foisting on the construction industry. This 85-cent per hour per worker charge is a brand new fee. It's unprecedented. This is on top of union fees and dues and all the rest of that. So the minister can't tell us where this money is going. He can't tell us how much the government expects to collect. We know that on one school, the construction of one school, the amount is that the government will collect is $250,000 ballpark in this one fee, in this 85-cent fee. So across the 4 schools that are scheduled to be built, you do the math, $250,000 across 4 schools is $1 million that the Manitoba Building Trades Council is collecting in this fee, this 85-cent fee, this unprecedented charge that's never been levied before in Manitoba's construction history. And the minister doesn't want to answer some basic questions about where is this money going. You know, suddenly there's a need for it. Administration, safety. Well, when it comes to safety, you know, Manitoba's construction associations have got that figured out. In fact, they were the ones. It was open shop construction associations that created the first worker safety programs. And I passed one of their vehicles, actually, CSAM, Construction Safety Association of Manitoba, on my way to work this morning. So just another reminder, hey, you know, I want to thank all the open shop contractors in Manitoba's construction industry for their advancements to the innovation in Manitoba's construction industry. But, you know, back to this fee, again, no answers about where this money is going, and the minister can't answer basic, simple questions about how much his government expects to collect. So it's clear that the purpose of this money is to reward their political allies in the Manitoba Building Trades Council, and to and actually you see their political allies right now running ads, slick new ads on behalf of the NDP to help the NDP get elected. This is shady insider business, and you know, you can't take the minister at his word. So it's a huge concern for Manitoba taxpayers, just an absolute lack of oversight. And one of the things, and I brought this out last time, but one of the things about this Manitoba Jobs Agreement that troubles me the most is that this minister has never brought the Manitoba Jobs Agreement to this legislature for debate, has never brought it here for scrutiny, for the ability of legislators in this place to ask questions. And so we're left to do this, to use this forum to ask questions. And here I am, and along with my PC colleagues, as we have been for weeks and months now, asking questions on behalf of Manitoba taxpayers, trying to get some transparency and accountability for them. And this shady, secretive, backroom dealing government, NDP government, up to their, typical behavior. And we can't get answers from them. So I'm hugely concerned about that. I would just like to know, the minister, repeats ad nauseum the same old tired talking points. And he says, we're listening to Manitobans. Well, I'd like to ask him, when's the last time he's met with the Winnipeg Construction Association? When's the last time he's met with Merit? When's the last time he's met with Manitoba Heavy Construction Association? When's the last time he's met with the Rural Construction Association of Manitoba? And after he's finished answering me, and I want to know exactly when, I'd like to know the dates of the minister's meetings with all of those organizations. But I also want to know, more importantly, what changes has this minister made as a result, has this minister made to the Manitoba Jobs Agreement as a result of those consultations?
The Honourable Minister for Public Service Delivery.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I want to thank the member for that question. Like previously, I asked the member if he have gone to the job site and had he talked to the workers and offering them to see if you want to make less money. And he hasn't given me any name yet where he has talked to the person, to a worker on a job site, and who said, you know what, I want to make less money. I want to have a less safer work site, where he hasn't mentioned me a single place where he doesn't want, where workers want to have less benefit. So again, what MJ is all about: fair wages, safer work site, and better benefit. Again, a member might just only listening to the lobbyist. He may not want to go and listen to Manitoba workers. On this side of the House, we care about Manitoba workers. I will continue to listen to them each and every day. They are the one building Manitoba. They are the one out at the work site. It's be minus 40 or plus 40, working hard, and we want to make sure they go safely to their families. We want to make sure we see more Manitoba license plate, unless previously under Conservative, they created jobs not here in Manitoba. They created those jobs, and you see those license plates at those work sites from Saskatchewan and Alberta. And member asked the last time I met these organizations, WCA, Manitoba Heavy, and CARM. That was last time I met them is March 27th, and department met them April 28th. At March 27th, there was discussion from the industry setting up a industry table. So we sent those invitations to the industry, both WCA and Manitoba Heavy, both separately, having two tables. And we addressed concern. Member also talked about what concern has been addressed. We have addressed concern about data privacy, and we are continuing to work to make sure MJ works for everyone. And recently, actually, I just forgot to mention this, MCAM, ECAM, we just met them April 28th. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
We're not getting any answers today, so I think I'm ready to close out and bring in the next minister.
Not an answer. No, wasn't an answer.
March 27th.
No, we're done.
The critic has indicated that questions have concluded, so we move on to resolutions. Resolution 8.2, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $12,254,000 for public service delivery capital programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 8.3, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $128,835,000. Sorry, I'm going to repeat that. $128,830,000 for public service delivery, asset management for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 8.4, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $26,013,000 for public service delivery, procurement, and supply chain for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 8.5, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $16,999,000 for public service delivery, consumer protection for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 8.6, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $80 million for public service delivery capital assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for the estimates of this department is item 8.1, bracket A, the minister's salary contained in resolution 8.1. At this point, we request that all ministerial and opposition staff leave the chamber for the consideration of the last item. The floor is open for questions. No questions? Resolution 8.1, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $4,260,000 for public service delivery, financial and strategic management for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2027. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates for the Department of Public Service Delivery. The next set of estimates to be considered by this section of the Committee of Supply is for the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Shall we briefly recess to allow the Minister and critics the opportunity to prepare for the commencement of the next department? Agreed. Committee is in recess. Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now consider the estimates of the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. Does the Honourable Minister have an opening statement? The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Minister of Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure, I'm honoured to be here today to speak to the important work of the department. Our government remains committed to delivering safe, reliable, and sustainable infrastructure that supports Manitobans, strengthens communities, and grows our economy. Transportation infrastructure play a critical role in connecting Manitobans to services, supporting trade and economic development, strengthening safety, and connecting communities across every region of the province. Our government continues to prioritize strategic investments that support economic growth, improve safety, and strengthen climate resiliency across Manitoba. I am very pleased to tell the members of this committee that MTI's Part B capital budget has been increased from $595 million in 25-26 to $605 million in 26-27. An increase of $10 million will be used to amend the neglect the previous government left us. My department continues to implement the multi-year infrastructure investment strategy, investing approximately $605 million in infrastructure and capital projects in 2026-27. This strategy provides a long-term, transparent framework focused on infrastructure renewal, economic development, climate resiliency, connectivity, and innovation. Significant transportation and infrastructure projects are currently underway across Manitoba. This year marks the beginning of design work for the Carberry Overpass at the intersection of PTH1 and PTH5. And thank you. An important step toward improving safety at a busy intersection. Preliminary design work and engagement are underway and include collaboration with local governments, impacted landowners, and rights holders. We continue to advance the Trans-Canada Highway Twinning Initiative from 5 kilometers west of PR 301 to Manitoba-Ontario boundary. This important project will significantly improve safety, increase highway capacity, reduce congestion during peak travel periods, and strengthen a key national trade corridor. As a multi-year project, it will also be a steady source of important jobs in the heavy construction industry. Together, this initiative reflects Manitoba's commitment to strategic infrastructure investments that support economic growth while reinforcing Manitoba's role as a national and international transportation and trade hub. Strengthening Manitoba's role as a transportation and supply chain gateway is a priority for our government, and our partnership with the federal government is key to advancing this work. Our government continues to support rehabilitation of the Hudson Bay Railway and improvements at the Port of Churchill. These investments support economic development, job creation, remote community access, and connectivity to global markets for local producers and products. Through collaboration with the Federal Major Projects Office, early planning and research are underway to expand exports through the Port of Churchill and strengthen northern supply chains. The Perimeter Freeway Initiative was established to ensure the Perimeter Highway continues to function as Manitoba's most critical trade, commuter, and safety corridor, supporting both the City of Winnipeg and the broader provincial economy. With steady population growth, increasing freight volumes, and continued land development around Winnipeg, the perimeter must safely and efficiently accommodate higher traffic volumes and more complex travel patterns. My department also continues to advance the Trade and Commerce Grid Initiative. This work has now brought total completion to 87.5% and continues increasing the proportion of Manitoba's highway network capable of supporting the heaviest and most efficient truck loadings. Road safety remains one of our government's highest priorities, and I'm proud of my department's work to develop and implement our road safety strategy, which has the goal of reducing fatalities and serious injuries on provincial highways. This work includes strengthening the road safety unit, improving governance of traffic data, reviewing fatal collisions, conducting network screening, and advancing safety planning for the entire highway system. Safety is also prioritized across Manitoba's provincial highway network through comprehensive summer maintenance and winter operations. Winter roads remain critically important for northern Manitoba communities. MTI constructs and maintains approximately 2,375 kilometers of winter roads, serving 19 First Nations and 3 Northern Affairs communities. These roads provide essential seasonal access for resupply, healthcare access, and inter-community travel. The department remains committed to maintaining winter road access as long as possible without compromising safety and continues investing in long-term improvements to support access and resiliency. We also recognize the importance of safe, reliable, and all-season airport access for Wasagamak First Nation and St. Teresa Point First Nation. Construction of all-season road and bridge structures will continue through winter 2026 while design work progresses for the future airport terminal. Emergency management and climate resiliency continues to be major priorities for Manitoba. The 2025 wildfire season had significant impacts across the province, including widespread evacuation and extensive wildfire activity. In response, Manitoba is undertaking a comprehensive provincial after-action review focused on identifying lessons learned, recognizing strengths and gaps, and improving wildfire response efforts. This work includes broad engagement with First Nations, Indigenous organizations, municipalities, provincial departments, and external partners and stakeholders. Manitoba also announced a disaster financial assistance program for local authorities affected by the 2025 wildfires. Manitoba's EMO aligned the provincial disaster financial assistance program with Canada's updated disaster financial assistance arrangements framework to maximize federal cost sharing. Flood mitigation and climate resiliency infrastructure also remain important departmental opportunities. The department continues maintaining and rehabilitating Manitoba's flood mitigation network, including dams, dikes, diversions, pumping stations, and drainage infrastructures. That commitment was reflected during flood conditions when Manitoba's emergency response efforts played a critical role in protecting communities, infrastructure, and public safety across the province. On the ground, departmental staff respond quickly, providing critical engineering expertise, assisting with sandbagging, and coordinating the movement of equipment and resources to areas of highest need. To ensure a coordinated whole-of-government response, the Manitoba Emergency Management Organization activated the Manitoba Emergency Coordination Centre to support affected regions. Teams across the department and government worked closely with local authorities and First Nation communities to support flood planning and response efforts and to coordinate flood-related assets and service requests. Together, these actions ensured that communities had the support they needed during a time of crisis. As emergency conditions stabilized, Manitoba began shifting its focus from immediate response to permanent flood protection for flood-impacted First Nation communities, including Peguis First Nation and Fisher River Cree Nation. Manitoba continues to work collaboratively with Peguis First Nation and Fisher River Cree Nation on the management, design, and construction of these protection works, supported by a funding commitment negotiated with the federal government. Ultimately, investing in permanent flood resiliency infrastructure strengthens the long-term health and safety of communities, significantly reducing future risks to homes and critical infrastructure and minimizing the need for emergency responses, including evacuations. Our government and my department continue to make significant investments that strengthen Manitoba's transportation network, support economic growth, improve public safety, advance reconciliation, and build climate resiliency across the province. We are committed to working with communities, experts, and stakeholders to ensure all this is possible. And I am confident that these strategic investments will ensure Manitobans can live and work safely while helping our economy grow and thrive. Together, these efforts pave the way for a stronger, more sustainable, and more prosperous future for all Manitobans. Thank you, Chair.
We thank the Minister for those comments. Does the official opposition critic have any opening comments? The Honourable Member for Borderlands.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to say thanks to the Minister for being here today to answer questions, and obviously we're going to welcome staff in shortly, but my thanks to them as well, and everyone in the Department of Manitoba Transportation Infrastructure for the work that they do, whether it's emergency preparedness or building our roads. It is a very significant file, and I thank them all, and I look forward to asking some questions today. Thank you.
We thank the critic from the opposition for those remarks. Under Manitoba practice, debate on the minister's salary is the last item considered for a department in the Committee of Supply. Accordingly, we shall now defer consideration of line item 15.1 bracket A contained in resolution 15.1. This time we invite ministerial and opposition staff to enter the chamber, and I would ask the minister and critic to please introduce their staff in attendance. The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to thank the incredible staff in my department, Deputy Minister Ryan Kloss, as well as ADM and Executive Financial Officer Amber Zhang. And I also have Kira Shattuck, who is my Director of Ministerial Affairs. All the things I can remember.
Thank you. And if we could have the member for Borderland introduce his staff, the Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thank you, Chair. We have Shannon with us today.
In accordance with Sub-Rule 78, bracket 16, during the consideration of departmental estimates, questioning for each department shall proceed in a global manner, with questions put on the resolutions. Once the official opposition critic indicates the questioning has concluded, the floor is now open for questions. The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd just like to start off right off the top and just ask about the Lake St. Martin outlet channel. What is the government, just really broad, what's the government's intention with regard to that?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that question from the member opposite. So this obviously has been a long, ongoing challenge to governments of the day and of the past day, and so the status of that project right now is it's still absolutely a project that I'm committed to, that our government's committed to. But I think the member might recall that the federal government had raised some concerns about the licensing, the environmental licensing, pertaining to the needs of rights holders, pertaining to all kinds of issues that would impact generally First Nations communities. And so we wanted to get it right. We think that this remains a critical project for protecting many, many Manitobans and communities from flooding. And so at that time, we asked the federal government to hold off on a decision in case they didn't allow us to continue with this project. And we have invested a lot of time and person power and energy into getting it right, working with the communities, each community impacted, to make sure that their concerns are being addressed, and that when we go back to the federal government to ask them to rule on it, we will have been able to bring a solution and a resolution to the concerns that was holding back that environment license. So that work is ongoing. I'm pretty proud of the work that the department's done on that.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Thanks, Chair. And I appreciate the minister's, commitment to the project. Is there any funding committed to the project in terms of, consultation or just any of the work that's ongoing?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So up until now, about $120 million have been allocated to this project. That has been money spent on design. We've actually just completed the design for this project, the land acquisition and consultation. So those investments have already been made. And in this year's budget, there's not a specific line for this project. There would be allocations out of water and our other infrastructure budget lines. And this is also a project that will require federal financial support, and so I can't, until we have the environmental approvals, we're not in a position to negotiate what that support looks like.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thank you. So I'll switch gears here and move over to the emergency management file. The estimates show emergency management staffing increasing from 47 to 62 FTEs, including a significant increase in recovery and mitigation. I wonder if the minister could talk about what new positions are being added and how will these additional resources improve Manitoba's emergency preparedness and response capacity.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
So, thank you for that question about staffing. You know, when I came into this role, I was astounded to understand that there was a 39% vacancy rate across my entire department. And I know now from a lot of the research that's come out about the level of vacancies across all of government, but it was very high in transportation infrastructure, and that's something we have been trying to fill those positions, to strengthen those positions. In this particular section of emergency management organization, there was a great deal of reliance on term positions. And I wanted the stability for that department. These 15 positions are not in preparedness work, as the member asked about, but rather part of the response and mitigation efforts of emergency management, because there's lots of different roles that happen there. So we've been able to make these permanent positions to make sure that we have the folks in place to help Manitobans recover from a disaster.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
The department states that it is enhancing Manitoba's emergency management capacity following recent emergencies. What were the biggest gaps identified over the last year, and how are those gaps reflected in this budget?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. I thank the member for that question. I want to just say, here it is, May 5th or something. I looked at 7th. Look how the time flies. A year ago, we were already 11 or 12 days into our wildfire season. The first wildfire started in April. The last wildfire ended in November. And of course, fighting wildfires is part of a different department, the purview of Minister Bushy. But Emergency Management Organization was deeply involved from the beginning to the end. And then, of course, the recovery and mitigation, and are still deeply involved in the work of last year's season. So I'm incredibly proud of the public servants in this department. It was just such an honor last summer to see the skill and the scope of their knowledge, their passion, their hour. I remember begging staff to get some sleep when I knew that they'd gone 24 hours, 36 hours without rest. So I can't speak to gaps. What I can speak to is that there's always an opportunity to learn. And so that is why we have done the after-action review. We've released a preliminary report so that we can begin to address it and address anything that might help us in the future.
Order. I'll just remind the Minister that in Committee of Supply we have to use portfolios and not. You used another minister's name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gentle reminder. Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
The Minister of Northern Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures, who is responsible for the wildfire services, is what I meant to say. Anyways, okay, I lost my train of thought there. What I want to say is that the After Action Review is providing us with a roadmap for improvements, because every system can always have improvements, and because we've never seen a wildfire season like last summer, and we hope to never see one like that again, but we want to be even more prepared if that's the case. And then going into, the only other area, the only place of gap I would really identify is that never in the history of Manitoba has the province worked with and served First Nations in the way that happened last summer. We made a decision as a government to take a one Manitoba approach, to not simply say to First Nations that they needed to work it out with ISK, and we weren't a part of it. There was a one-door approach, regardless of whether you came from a town or a Northern Affairs community or a First Nations community, that you got the same kind of support, the same levels of access to support through the crisis. And so I think what we were doing was addressing a gap, a huge gap in real time, and we learned a lot from that, and it didn't go perfectly. But we're learning from what took place last summer in order to have a better approach going forward in the future. And I think we did just get to, again, witness that in real time with the work that our province provided to mitigate for the potential flood that was expected from the Fisher River. So I hope that answers the question effectively.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thanks, Chair, and I thank the Minister for that fulsome answer. The Manitoba Emergency Coordination Centre is responsible for coordinating a whole-of-government response during disasters. Again, during the major emergencies in the last year, including the 2025 wildfire season. And I know, as the Minister said in her last answer, that that's the Minister's Minister for Natural Resources, and Indigenous Futures. It's his department's responsibility, but I'm wondering if the Minister can still speak about, from the perspective of her department, whether there were any situations where there were issues with coordination capacity and where there were staffing, perhaps proved insufficient, and again, what lessons may have been taken from that.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Just going to ask for some clarity. We had staff. We had staff from Wildfire Services. We had staff from the Families Department, from Healthcare, Mental Health, Justice. Where? Parks, and of course. MTI and emergency management, and probably some I'm forgetting. So in terms of staffing gaps, which department was the member referring to?
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Yeah, I guess I'm just speaking generally about, so my understanding is that it would be Manitoba, the Manitoba Emergency Coordination Centre, which rests within MTI, or within your department, I believe, or the Minister's department. And so they're the ones coordinating the response. I'm just wondering, if the Minister, if there were any lessons learned through the disaster response last year, because of any, and there may not have been, but any potential staffing shortfalls, or whether coordination capacity was significant or what was sufficient. To be able to coordinate between all of the different departments and everyone involved in the response.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. So Emergency Management Organization does have one of the lowest vacancy rates in all of government, which is a good thing. And as we mentioned before, we've added those 15 FTEs to help with mitigation and the after, like there's so much work that happens after a disaster in terms of a lot of the administrative processes and support for communities. And so that doesn't really speak to your question or to the member's question about what was happening during the emergencies. So, as I mentioned, there were multiple government departments involved. And so EMO's role was really to coordinate all of that. There were multiple coordination calls every single day. So there would be calls with families, there would be calls with healthcare. There was a daily briefing with myself and the Premier and the Minister of Natural Resources and Indigenous Futures and our staff every single day at noon, either an in-person meeting or a call every single day, literally for 2 months maybe, with 7 days a week. And that was more on the political level, what was happening, and then lots, so that we were able to that leadership could speak to leadership with municipalities and chiefs that were in contact with us. But then there was all the coordination calls that happened throughout the day between the different departments and also the federal government working with ISK, working with the emergency minister at the federal level. And so it was, given everything that was taking place and the sheer volume of wildfires, the sheer volume of evacuees, I want to say it was a well-oiled machine, but I know the reality is that it wasn't perfect for everyone, and it's never going to feel good to people to leave their home and sleep in a gym somewhere. It's terrible for people who have to come from the north and come to the city and may be vulnerable to some of the things that go on here. So there was a lot of involvement with justice, and it took a bit of time to get the right mix. Who is the right type of justice person to be in that space that doesn't make things worse, that helps people be both safe and comfortable. So a lot of problems were solved in real time. But I don't believe that there was any gaps in staffing in my department or in the work that was provided by EMO in those coordination efforts.
The Honourable Member for Borderland.
Thanks, Chair. And again, I thank the Minister. The estimates reference efforts to modernize the Disaster Financial Assistance Program. What specific reforms are being considered, and how will they reduce wait times for Manitobans affected by disasters?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thanks. I've never done this in this space, and it's very different. I'll get it right eventually. Okay, well, thanks you for that question. So yeah, the federal program, which is the DFAA program, had substantial changes to it that were introduced. We had some information ahead of time, but they took effect April 1st. And so the province worked really hard to match and coordinate with that, because that's important, that there's an alignment with the federal program if we want to see reimbursement as a province for expenses for us. But some of the modernization that I'm really happy about is like what we call the Build Back Better program. So historically, the federal program and the provincial program would have, for example, if we needed to rebuild a road that was washed out from flooding, would have built it back to exactly where it was before. With the new Build Back Better program, there's the opportunity to now build that road higher to make sure that it wouldn't be impacted by a similar flood in the future. And so there's a lot more built in, that's this Build Back Better. There is also some other allowances. Previous DFA programs wouldn't have addressed things for, let's say, homeless people. Like at the time of last year's fire, there would have been people evacuated from Flin Flon that may have been not actually living in a house, right? Or if Thompson had been evacuated. And so there's new ways in there to support people who may be homeless but lose their belongings because of fire or flood. And so we're aligned with the federal program. It is more expensive to the province, but we also chose not to download those additional expenses to municipalities.
The honourable member for Borderland.
The government says it wants to maximize federal reimbursements under the disaster financial assistance arrangements. How much federal funding related to recent disasters is Manitoba still waiting to recover, including costs associated with the 2025 wildfire season?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you. So we have, as a province, already submitted our claims for 2023 2025 wildfire season. The team worked really hard to get those submissions done relatively early. It is a long process. We don't know yet how much we'll get back. My staff just showed me a list of claims that are still being audited. They date back, they date back before either of us was elected, or either the member or I were elected. So it's a long process with the federal government working through those audits, and the department, that's exactly the type of administrative work that a lot of those new FPTs deal with.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Thanks, Chair. And yeah, that is a frustration, perhaps, if that's the word, but I understand that that is a process that takes a lot of time. And I guess, unfortunately, you know, the consequence of that is that the provincial government ends up paying interest for a period of time on money that is supposed to be, you know, reimbursed by the federal government. So there's a bit of a cost there as time goes on. The department highlights programs like the Manitoba Investing in Resiliency and Adaptation Program and the Residential Flood Protection Subsidy. How is the government measuring whether these mitigation programs are actually reducing long-term disaster costs and improving community resilience?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you. So the members raised a question about something that's really new and kind of, I think in my staff's words, the first kick of the can about this program. So we have, we've done our first, to approve the first two projects under the MIRA program. One is a fire break, 4 fire breaks ahead of the 2026 wildfire season at Snow Lake. And these fire breaks are intended to reduce the community's exposure to future wildfire spread. And then there's also the rural municipality of Lac du Bonny. There was the development of a community wildfire protection plan to help identify local wildfire risks and guide the prioritization of future mitigation actions. So that is the type of program that we are able to roll out within this funding.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Yeah. The department's key initiatives include expanding training, workshops, and emergency preparedness exercises. Following the challenges experienced during the 2025 wildfire season, how many provincial level emergency exercises are planned this year, and will any specifically test large-scale evacuation capacity and coordination with municipalities and First Nations?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Yeah, I think the question was about the training. I mean, there is ongoing training and education available to municipalities throughout the year. There is a lot of checks and balances between municipal emergency managers and our department. And so I think, you know, certainly lessons learned from last summer is how important that training is, and we are committed to continuing those ongoing programs.
The honourable member for Borderland.
My colleague from Roblin has a question.
The honourable member for Roblin.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. As the Minister will know, I represent the RM of Headingley, and I just had a couple of questions about the department's intentions in this budget year with respect to Portage Avenue as Highway 1 through Headingley specifically. I think the Minister will be aware that the top infrastructure priority of the RM of Headingley is the twinning of Portage Avenue through that stretch, particularly with the construction of the Costco there and the growth within Headingley itself. Traffic is a very serious concern. The Minister has responded to a couple of letters I've sent regarding the intersection of Bloomberg Trail and Highway 1, where there's significant safety concerns there, just near the Costco. So I'm just wondering if there's any consideration in this year's budget estimates for advancing whether it's study or design work or any progress towards separating Highway 1 through Headingley and constructing service roads.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. So regarding that stretch of Highway 1 through Headingley, I'm sure the member will know that there was some recent road construction that was recently completed. Also, we've recently opened the new weigh scale to make things safer with trucks coming through there. And we are monitoring the intersection for additional potential improvements. The timing of the lights was adjusted. They're based on traffic volume, but we're continuing to monitor traffic volume with the new developments in the area and considering future intersection improvements if that's warranted.
The Honourable Member for Roblin.
I thank the Minister for the response, but I would be remiss in my responsibilities as the MLA for Roblin if I didn't just reiterate the importance of eventually separating that section of Highway 1 and installing service roads and working with the RM to achieve that. I understand that's not a small undertaking, particularly when it comes to dealing with the properties along Portage Avenue that would be affected by that. But in all of my conversations with elected officials in the RM of Headingley, they've made it very clear to me that that is a significant priority of theirs. Moving on to a different question. I had sent a letter about this to the Minister earlier in the year, and I just wondered if there was an update. It's my understanding that Karen Road, which is just north of Roblin Boulevard through Headingley. There's a jurisdictional dispute is too strong of a word, but it's not clear whether it belongs to the RM or the province, and there's some discrepancy. That's the word I'm looking for. There's a discrepancy, not a dispute. And I think I believe the RM has indicated its willingness to take it over. But it's still under the province's jurisdiction, and this has resulted in some issues with maintenance. And it's a gravel road, so it gets quite rutted, particularly in wet weather. I just wondered if there's any further progress on whether that's discussions or negotiations or however the department would characterize it between the RM and the province regarding Karen Road.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. So the type of issue that the member has raised, we're getting into the nitty-gritty of casework and not really budget territory because this is very tiny in an overall budget for MTI, but I have done my best to find out an answer. So the department is working closely with the RM on this issue. It's my understanding that there is some improvements being made to Rockhill Road, and once that's done, I believe the RM will be assuming responsibility for Karen Road. But that is just an ongoing project right now with, you know, not at my level, sorry to say, but I hope that's helpful.
The honourable member for Roblin.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate the minister's willingness to entertain my borderline question when it comes to budget estimates. With that, I'm going to return the floor to my colleague from Borderland.
The honourable member for Borderland.
Thank you, Chair. I'll allow my colleague for Lactabani to ask a few questions.
The honourable member for Lactabani.
Thank you, Honourable Chairperson. Quick question for the Minister, and I appreciate that this atmosphere here in the chambers is different than in the committee rooms for sure. Quick question on 433, which is the road from 313 all the way up towards Granite Hills Golf Course in the RM of Lactabani. What the status of that is, and where are we at? Are we still on time and relatively on budget to get that work well underway and hopefully completed by summer of, well, I think it was supposed to be 2026, but we'll go for 2027.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair, and I thank the member for the question. I love the community of Lactabani and spending time there and the incredible working relationship we have with the municipal leadership. So I'm more than happy to address this question. That particular road, it absolutely, this project needs to be done from a safety perspective. It has been in the 5-year plan, but there's also been some challenges around land acquisition. So the department has been working closely with the RM. I think the most recent meeting was just yesterday. And so we've been able to adjust the design to deal with some of those concerns so that we can move forward with this project in a timely fashion.
The honourable member for Lac du Bonnet.
Thank you to the minister for the answer. So I'll do it in my next question as a two-part. So I guess what is the projected timeline for completion? And secondly, since we're talking about the area around 313, has there been any discussion around speed zones and also turning lanes coming off of 313, sort of proceeding from, and just to paint a picture for the minister, not saying that she doesn't know, but I'm just saying sort of east of the old bridge that was known at one time as the Skinny Bridge, which is the new 313 bridge, towards the Bird River turnoff, and that for turning lanes, and that, say, the 520 and that area. So thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. So Lac du Bonnet, the municipal leaders have have brought forward several questions about speed limits and intersection issues, and so we're working closely with the municipal leadership to negotiate what makes sense for that community, and that is built into this year's budget, so you can think about this like a budget question. That work will continue and proceed with the municipal leaders.
The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonnet.
Great. So it's thanks for that answer to the minister, and it's good to hear that the project, speed zones, and turning lanes are all going to get done this coming summer. That'll encourage all those seasonal residents that live outside of my constituency, but then call the Lac du Bonnet constituency home from April 1st till October 31st. So that'll excite everybody there. That's good to hear. So since we're talking about speed zones, and the minister had brought that up, speed zones around Highway 317 and number 11, I know that the Eastman Committee with mayors and reeves have been in contact with the minister, and it's good to hear that the dialogue is going well. So I guess we'll switch gears up to the community, the town of Parview Pine Falls, and the RM of Alexander. So what is the status and the completion date for the main provincial road going right through the town of Parview Pine Falls, 304 and number 11?
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. Before I speak about Highway 11, which was, I believe, the last question, first of all, I want to correct the record. I very clearly stated in my last answer that my department was working closely with Lac du Bonny on they have several speed limit speed change requests and intersection improvements that are of interest to their community. We are working with them and addressing each of these requests in time. When it comes to speed limits, there's a lot of safety engineering standards to be considered, and that work is ongoing. And I find it disrespectful of the process that the member would put false information on the record by claiming that I had stated that all of that work is being done. I'm not sure why he's playing games with this very important process. And I'm also not sure why, when there is this opportunity to dig deep into our budget, that it's becoming a casework afternoon. But I will take a moment to just brag a little bit about our increase in capital spending. That's an additional $10 million for highways this year. And maybe that is why, because there's no criticism of our actual budget. So this process is taking an interesting turn. But every one of our projects is listed online. Members and their constituents can see what we're working on. They can also see the 5-year capital plan and the annual updates. But I think the budget itself is actually a way more interesting conversation. As for Highway 11, there was a project, there were improvements this past year. I'm not sure if the member is speaking about something different.
The Honourable Member for Lac du Bonny.
So I apologize unequivocally to the minister if she took what I was saying as any kind of slight to the process or anything else. But I was just basically asking about the timelines, which I would think that because we're talking about the budget, timelines and monies to be expended on these projects, I think, are very pertinent in this budget. So the question I had asked was Highway 11 in the community, the town of Powerview Pine Falls, from the tracks just east of the community of Saguin, right through the town to the junction of number 11 and number 304, and just wondering if that is also on time and on budget. And then since the minister brought it up, I'm asking if the service roads just south of that junction is also getting redone. So I again apologize if the minister didn't say that work was going to get done earlier about the speed zones and that. So for that, I do apologize. And so I would like to know, though, when those speed zones and those conversations with the local elected leaders, when those projects are potentially going to get done on those speed zones, because we've had a few accidents at the corner of 317 and 11. I don't want to get her off topic. I want to have her talk about Highway 11 to 304 and then speed zones at Highway 317 and 11. And if she could talk about that. It does come down to money. That's why it's very pertinent to this budget. And I look forward to the minister's answer. Thank you.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. To answer the question about Highway 11, I had said in my previous answer that some of that construction work had already taken place, and that was an intersection improvement and a 1.7 kilometer bituminous reconstruction that started last year. So that work started, and now as we're entering construction season again, it will be completed this year.
The Honourable Member for Lac Du Bonnet.
Thank you, and thanks to the Minister for that, that answer on the project of 304 to number 11. So in regards to the speed zones, you know what, I'll leave the speed zones alone for now up around 317 and 11 because the Minister said that they're working on it. No completed, no time frame, but that, you know what, I'll wait for the Minister to share with the elected leaders, which again, from the community, which includes myself, as far as what that timeline will be. So I'll just jump again, basically based on this year's budget, knowing that a lot of infrastructure has already been completed in the town of Beausejour for Park Avenue, for redoing water lines and that. Now I think the stage is set to get Park Avenue done, as well as the roundabout at the corner of Highway 12, 302, and Park Avenue. I'm just wondering what would be the guesstimated budget for that finished project, and is the timeline, is everything on time and potentially going to be completed when? Thanks to the Minister.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. So first of all, just to go back to, I know the member did want to hear a little bit more about 11 and 317, and we have done a safety review at that intersection. Actually, the results, the timeline, and the plan of that project were shared with both the town and the RM last month. So the member may want to speak to the constituents he represents to hear their feedback on that, but our work continues on that project with the community. And, you know, I know I can hear there's a lot of interest in speed limits in different communities today. And, you know, this is a really good example of where budget cuts really have significant consequences. When I came into this role, there was several years backlog on the department's ability to review speed limit requests. And, you know, it took some time for us to get ahead of that, but now there's a dedicated team. So the backlog that came to be under the previous government, we're clearing that, and we're, you know, new requests coming in are able to get much faster attention. So I'm pretty excited about our work to be more responsive to municipalities on these questions about speed limits. So I'm happy for the chance to talk about that today. And in terms of the specific project that the member is asking about, we are at the detailed design stage for the roundabout, which will be completed this summer. We'll go to tender for construction later this year. And there's drainage work that on Park Avenue that needs to be worked out with the town before the final design before the design can be finalized.
If another member wants to ask questions, it needs to be handed over from the current member. So I'll ask the Honourable Member for Lac-Dubonnet.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. I'm going to pass it over to my good friend and colleague, the MLA for Lakeside.
The Honourable Member for Lakeside.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thanks for the opportunity to bring forward some questions and estimates here this afternoon for the Minister. Just an issue or a project that I've been bringing to the attention of the Minister the last couple days in the chamber here. Project on PR 227 where the bridge structures are being upgraded as we speak. Now these bridges have been closed in the RM of Woodlands since October. Been getting lots of questions from residents and of course the RM about the completion date, because it appears that the structures are complete now. In fact, I drove out there and had a look at them myself. I probably could have drove over them if I wanted to go around the barricades, but I didn't. So they appear to be complete, the concrete structures, just some gravel there. I understand there needs to be some paving yet, but residents are wondering with them appearing to be complete, why the timeline for the project being finished, if it could be expedited somewhat, because it seems to be directed. Now that's a busy highway. It's a paved highway from all the way from Medley to Warren, and very busy. And a lot of that traffic has been rerouted onto the municipal roads ever since last October. So I would like the Minister, if she could tell me what the expected timeline. The RM has been told July, which is another 3 months from now. Why it couldn't be finished, so the municipal infrastructure in which they're spending a lot of time maintaining and graveling at this point with no support from or response from the province for that matter, if that timeline would be bumped up or not.
The Honourable Minister for Transportation and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Chair. To the member opposite, we're in constant communication with the RM. We've had at least two meetings in the minister's office on this. We have another one coming up on various issues in the community. But as he stated, that we have done a lot of work on the two structure replacement projects. I would have expected him to be saying thank you for that.
The time being 5 p.m. I am interrupting the proceedings. The Committee of Supply will resume sitting tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. The hour being 5 p.m., this House is recessed and stands recessed until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.